Welcome to Meet the Candidate with your host, Sue Lonnie Madsen. Meet the Candidate is your opportunity to see local candidates and hear about the experiences that have shaped their lives. Meet the Candidate is a nonpartisan community project brought to you by our friends at Greater Spokane Incorporated, Ponderosa Republican Women's Club, We Believe, We Vote, and Better Spokane. Now, here's Sue Lonnie.
Okay, welcome to Meet the Candidate. My guest for this session is Randy Michaelis, and Randy is running for the 7th Legislative District, State Representative, Position 1. Welcome,
yes,
Randy.
That's good. Thank you.
Well, this is just an opportunity to introduce yourself in over the video, starting with where did you grow up and go to school?
Right. So I grew up in North Spokane. My dad was from Elk River. My mom was from Central Oregon. They were farmers, loggers, did the GI Bill. After he was a World War II glider pilot.
Oh.
My mom was a beautician. They came back. They decided he was going to be an optometrist because he had met one in the service, and his wife had 16 pairs of shoes. And so he thought this is a good gig. And so they went to optometry school, started in Colville, and then moved to North Spokane, which is where I grew up. So I grew up in Whitworth Elementary, Meade Junior High, Meade High School, the one that's actually in the little town of Meade.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my stomping grounds during that time. And at that point, it was a much different Meade School District than it is now.
It was.
In fact, 4-H and Future Farmers of America was a very important part of what happened at Meade High School at that time.
Are those activities that you were involved with?
No. I was.
That didn't draw you in. Something else
I didn't.
Did.
Those guys were my friends. So I grew up about a block off of Division, and so my friends were the Kaiser friends. The Kaiser kids and the Armor meat packing and the railroad, the railroad. So those are the kids I hung out with. So I was interested in athletics. I was a bit of a nerd, so I read a lot of books.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, and used to just go out, run on my bike and just ride for miles, and that was a big part of it. So.
Well, and you went on to some further education after high school.
I did, yeah. So. Because my grandmother, my dad's side, had completed some education, she was really adamant that everyone go on to get education. And so she was a true pioneer woman, came out and homesteaded in Elk River in the early 1900s. And so going off to school was a big deal. So my dad had completed his degree, and so what I did is after Meade High School, I went to Pacific University because he was an optometrist. My uncle was an optometrist, and so I thought, I'm going to do that. I had this big conversion experience to Christianity when I was down there, and thought I need to go somewhere where they're going to nurture this newfound faith, so I came to Whitworth. I graduated from Whitworth with a bachelor's degree in biology. I, at that time, thought I was going to optometry or med school, but after all of that change, I felt a calling to teach, and so I became an elementary school teacher with my BA in biology, which is a bit different, and I taught the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade in the Meade School District, the Auburn School District, just south of Seattle, and Deer Park. And so I did that for 11 years, and while I was doing that, back up real quickly. When I was in high school, in physics, we got involved with key punch computer programming. I learned how to do COBOL through a guy that run the data processing in the basement of Holy Family. And so I got hooked on that when little computers came out, or microcomputers came out in the 80s. I went back, got my master's of education in math and computer science. That led to a job at Whitworth when I was director of computer ed, and then I went back to WSU and completed my PhD. So a little bit roundabout, yeah. So
no, roundabout is good. I like scenic routes.
Yeah. I know. I haven't had a direct route yet. Yeah. Just connect the dots.
So along with the education, another source of education is first jobs. What kind of first jobs did you pick up as a kid?
Yeah, absolutely. First job was picking beans for O'Brien's cafe, which was on Garland, where my dad had his practice, and so we got 50 cents a bucket, and that was probably second grade for that. The rest of my jobs were 7th grade, 8th grade. I thinned apples on Green Bluff, and then it was hay fields in Deer Park, Wild Rose Prairie, the Finnefrock family. So we worked for them, did the haying there. Then I got a job as a meat cutting assistant at Ames IGA, which meant I cleaned up all the machines and
You weren't actually cutting meat.
No, I was on the other side of the saw, though, when they threw the chicken parts at me, and I would have to catch them and put them in these little trays. So that was part of the learning job. I think in some ways, the worst job I had was working at a creamery where I had to make blue cheese dressing all day. And by the time I came home, no one would let me in the house.
Do you ever order blue cheese dressing when you're out?
I really avoid it. Yeah.
So other kinds of educational experiences are travel, and I give people an opportunity to talk about places they've been and insights they've gained from that they've brought back.
Yeah. Well, I think the things that had an impact on me, right out of high school, I went with another friend, and we hitchhiked around Scandinavia for a while. And that was, of course, this is the summer of 1970. We didn't have a lot of money, so we couldn't get a lot of places. But that was my first real opportunity to see what the rest of the world looked like. I think professionally, the ones that have had the most impact on me are ones where I've taken students places. So we have at Whitworth, we have what's called a Jan term, and so I took students to Sitka, Alaska, and we worked at Mount Edgecombe High School, and that is the residential high school for Native Alaskans who don't have a secondary program in their small little village, like on the North Slope. And so we worked there with those students in that setting. I learned a lot. Our students learned a lot. That's a great thing about travel is maybe we were there to be assistants, but really it was about what we learned. And the last one I would say is when I worked with another prof, then we took students to East Africa, and we worked with families in a small town that had been greatly impacted by HIV/AIDS. We worked with an orphanage and a school, did a lot of things for that month. And that was, you can't walk away from those kinds of experiences without having been changed.
No, those experiences do have a great impact on what you bring to a position, which brings us to that last question, which is, it's all yours. How do you see the duties of the office that you're running for, and why should the voters choose you?
All right. So this is my last 90 seconds.
There you go.
There's your last run. There's
your pitch.
Okay. Good. All right. There's a lot of reasons that I'd like to do this. First of all, I think your job as a representative is to represent. Now you're going to go there with ideas, but your job is to listen. And so you listen to folks and find out what the problems are. I've made my living as an adult, as a chair, a faculty president, an associate provost, a dean. I solve problems. That's what I do. When there's an issue, in the last 6 years, if some unhappy person would call up the president, that went to my desk. And so my job was to solve the problems. That's what I think I do well. I look at today's front page, and we've got the tariff that's going to affect our apple growers here in the state of Washington. We've got a student at Lewis and Clark who's facing multiple felonies. We've got a woman here who has lost her son to suicide. And we've got sex ed once again up at the Spokane Public Schools. I think this is the kind of thing I do really well. When you entrench quickly, when you turn politics into something that's very polarized, when you turn these kinds of things into us against them, then it begins to, we don't have good solutions. People don't know what to do about guns and safety and mental illness. People don't know what to do when we become entrenched behind the politics of trade, and people don't know what to do when we're going to have a battle over curriculum that seems in a lot of ways fairly common sense that what we need to do. That's what I would do really well. And
Okay.
so all of you out there listening, if you want somebody that'd be a good listener, somebody who's not interested in being in the spotlight, somebody who's not going to be tweeting every day, if you want somebody who works quietly and maybe even a little boring behind the scenes to get things done, I'd be good for that.
Okay. Well, Randy, thank you for coming into the studio.
Glad to have you.
Enjoy your
Thank
campaign.
you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching Meet the Candidate. Spokane Talks thanks our community-minded partners, Greater Spokane Incorporated, the Ponderosa Republican Women's Club, We Believe We Vote, and Better Spokane for helping make Meet the Candidate possible.